Hello and welcome to SewandSo TV. My guest today is Hannah Sturrock, the designer behind the contemporary cross-stitch brand Bobo Stitch. Hannah has always loved cross-stitch, but initially resisted the desire to stitch all day and studied law instead. Realising that the barrister's wig probably wouldn't suit her, she started running charity events and ended up as manager of Christmas at Great Ormond Street Hospital for the children's charity. Having had 2 children herself, Hannah finally listened to the call of cross-stitch and started designing her own contemporary patterns. She's now the proud purveyor of cross-stitch kits and author of the book Modern Cross-Stitch, which we're both delighted to be stocking on SewandSo. So welcome, Hannah. Hi.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for having me. It's very nice to be here.
Well, it's wonderful that you could join us today. I'm really interested in you and your company and your story. How did you first get started in the craft?
Well, like most people, I guess, my mum and my grandmother were both into cross stitch and craft, and they taught me when I was really quite young, and has kind of continued for the rest of my life. I just dived straight on in, so it was no easy kit for me. First of all, I was straight into sort of 3/4 stitches and French knots and the whole shebang at 10 years old, and absolutely loved it. Just loved the therapy of it as much as anything. I think when you learn to stitch at that kind of age, you're still into sort of colouring and that kind of thing, and it was a similar thing for me, to sit down with a fresh piece of Ada and some lovely coloured threads, and just to sit and stitch and watch something pretty come to life. That's sort of where I really learned to love it, and I continued to stitch sort of into my teens, but then in my 20s it fell by the wayside a little bit as a sort of the pressures of life and then finding jobs and all of that kind of thing kick in.
Sure.
But I sort of came back to it when my friends started to have children, and I wanted to make something for them. I wasn't a knitter, I've never been, or crochet or anything like that, but I knew how to cross stitch, and I remembered how much I really enjoyed doing it, and how much I wanted to make something for their children that was a keepsake, something that they would keep forever, rather than just, something that would last them a few months when they first had the baby. And so I started looking for patterns, and the interesting thing to me was there was a lot of patterns. Cross stitch has got real longevity, but when I was looking for patterns, there were a lot of patterns that I recognized from sort of 10, 15 years before, when I was doing it when I was younger. And I thought, well, I want to do something for them that's very contemporary, something that they really want to show off on their nursery walls. And, I couldn't find anything at the time anywhere. So I decided to kind of give it a go myself and started
designing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's really where it started for me.
So, tell us a bit about Bobo Stitch. How did you kind of decide to launch it as a business, and what's it become now?
Well, Bobo Stitch, we call it Bobo Stitch because it came into being at the same time as my daughter, and that's her Bobo is her nickname. Her big brother she's called Olive. Her big brother called her Baby Olive, and it gradually got shortened to Bobo. And I after sort of starting that period of maternity leave and doing that, the whole sort of thinking what I was going to do next, where my life was going to take me, how I was going to work something around the children. And sort of, like I said, realizing that love again for stitching and crafting, I decided, having given some of these gifts to friends who said, oh, these are lovely, and getting that kind of feedback, that I would dip my toe in the water really slowly. I would, with platforms like Etsy and Moonfruit, where you can create your own website, you can put things out there gently and see if there's any kind of market for it. So that's essentially what I did. I self-taught myself. I am self-taught to create cross-stitch charts, to use that kind of software to do that, and sort of started putting kits together, and learned how to create a website, and sort of went from there really. But I wanted to do it slowly. I wanted to build the business gradually, because I had 2 very young children. But as it was, actually, it seems like I was able to ride the wave of the crafting revolution as it's coming about, and the business actually took off quite a lot faster I had originally anticipated.
Wait, are you a one-man band then, or have you got, you know, a big team around you?
I'd love to say I've got a big team around me, especially when I have IT issues particularly, but no, it is just me. So everything around the business it is down to me. And I think when people look at sort of cross-stitch design from the outside and think, oh Matt, wow, what an amazing job, and it is a really amazing job, but unfortunately you don't get to stitch very often anymore. That's the trouble.
I can imagine.
A lot of, you know, it's the social media, it's the marketing, it's, you know, it's everything else that goes with running a small business. But that's nice, because it means in my leisure time I can still enjoy sewing.
Brilliant. So, you know, what would you say it is that really characterizes the Bobo Stitch style? Because it's a little bit different, isn't it?
It's a little bit different. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I'm trying to create contemporary designs, quite clean designs, that are pleasurable to stitch. So something that is that you can do in front of the television. It's not too intricate, but the design is effective. And also it's something that you're very delighted to give to somebody as a gift. You know, you're really proud of it when you're finished. And I think the design is sort of, I try and draw quite a lot on sort of interior fashions and things like that. So using a lot of color blending, which is really fashionable at the moment, trying to use different technologies in stitching, like glow in the dark thread and the metallic threads, and bringing those to the fore. But essentially at the core of it, it's going back to my roots as a stitcher when I was young, and knowing how much I enjoyed it, and you know, how I enjoyed bringing that image to life. So I try and create patterns, like I say, that are effective but are easy to stitch.
Wonderful. So of all of your designs, which would you say is your favourite? Is that really difficult to choose one, or?
It's really difficult because I love everything as I'm stitching it. You know, I really enjoy, like I said, because I enjoy stitching so much, I love to stitch each of the designs. I really like the new collection, which is the Woodland collection, because again, these are sort of easy. This is one of them. So this is the flying ducks, and it's
it's using that negative space.
Negative space is exactly it. So actually, the middle bit isn't stitched. So this is a quick, easy cross stitch. You know, it doesn't take very long. It's really effective because of the color blending. And also,
actually, once you've got the outline right, if kind of a few stitches aren't exactly where they should be, you know, if you're not counting exactly, it doesn't really matter. So it's quite relaxing in that way, quite freeing. You don't have to slavishly follow it.
No worries about sort of ripping stitches out, any of that. You know, it needs to be relaxing as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, you're exactly right. Once you've got a little bit of it right, the rest you can almost freestyle it. You know, you can follow the pattern gradually. Right. There's a tiny little bit of metallic thread in here as well, which gives a really nice shine, which I really like. But I think probably my ultimate favorite, and this is, I really enjoyed stitching it, but also when I first took it to shows, people were quite impressed by it in as much as they hadn't seen it before. So this is using glow in the dark thread. So this is all of the owl, we call her. I like to name to all the characters in my cross stitch stuff. But this is a nursery picture using glow in the dark thread. And this is what it looks like by day. So you can see, you know, owls sleep during the day. It's got a sort of little thought bubble there because it's asleep and all the rest of it. And then it's personalized with somebody's name underneath. But this is using glow in the dark thread, which is hidden in here and in the outline of the owl. So at night time, I don't know if you can see this one very well, but this is the mock-up. So at night time, the owl comes live. So his eyes open and it sort of says twitwoo. You can see the moon and things in the background. So that was really fun to design, to try and get this detail so it's hidden, so you can't see it when you're doing your normal stitching.
That's so good. I mean, we had Mr. X Stitch on our channel.
I thought that was a brilliant episode.
In the dark. So really nice to see sort of that coming through in some kits and designs as well. So I think people will be really excited by that.
It's great fun to stitch with. You know, you're sort of there sewing it at night time in the evening, you turn your lights off and your stitch stash is literally kind of glowing away at you in the corner of the room. It's exciting to stitch with. It's fun.
That's brilliant. So, you know, you've achieved so much, but, you know, what do you think your biggest achievement is in the business to date?
Writing the book was brilliant. You know, I really, really enjoyed that. I was that was an amazing opportunity that came about because I attended Handmade Fair. So the very first Handmade Fair that Kirsty Allsop runs at Hampton Court, I decided that that was a brilliant audience for Bobo Stitch. It was a lot of young crafters who are looking for contemporary ways to apply their craft. And so I thought I would take a big gamble with the business and I would take a pitch there, because if it wasn't going to work there, it wouldn't work anywhere, you know. And I was really nervous about it. It was the first time it was going to be a public-facing event, so people could actually see the designs, they could touch the designs, they could come and tell me what they thought of them face to face, which was going to be absolutely brilliant in terms of sort of marketing and research and everything else. But obviously you're putting yourself out there as a designer, and you just don't know what's going to come of that. But feeling incredibly nervous as the doors opened on the first day, the first person to come past my stand happened to be the lady who runs Seco Publishing, who said, "Wow, I love your designs. You know, these are amazing. I happen to be looking for a contemporary cross stitcher. Do you have a book? Would you like to write a book?" And of course, I just didn't believe my luck at this point, thinking, "Oh my goodness." But, you know, thought that was a brilliant first conversation to settle my nerves. Wasn't sure anything would come of it, but sure enough, you know, a week after the fair, they got in touch and asked me to come into the office and talk to them about doing a book. And very, very quickly after that, the book was out and on the shelves. And obviously that's a lovely feeling to see so many of my designs out there.
There's 30 designs in the book, aren't there? And I've got the book here. I could give you a little flip through, but I'm not sure that you'd see it all. But it's absolutely jam-packed with some beautiful contemporary designs. We sell this on SewandSo, so you can get your hold of a copy, anyone who's watching. Yeah, that must have just been such a major achievement for you to get that done. But I also know that you've recently started doing some craft TV as well, haven't you?
Yeah, we've taken the brand on Create and Craft television, which again is, you know, if you told me 2 years ago that this was going to come about, I wouldn't have believed you. But I think it's brilliant that small craft businesses can be given this kind of platform. At the moment, craft is so fashionable, and so many people want to try new things, like I said, and do this during their leisure time. You know, there's sort of leisure time is so precious now. It's so hard to come by, and people want to use it in the best way possible. So for small businesses like mine to be able to get their message out there via, you know, SewandSo, via Create and Craft, you know, and sort of books and things like that is a brilliant thing, I think. So,
well, you know, I think it's just testament to the quality of your work and your designs and the brand you've built. I'm really curious, like you said, you're a one-man band. Like, what is an average day like for you? Is there even such a thing?
No, I'd love to say yes. I'd love to say I have a lovely routine where I sit in my lovely studio and drink coffee and do social media and all of that, but it just doesn't work like that. At the moment, Bobo still isn't at school, so that in itself presents a little bit of an issue when you're trying to sort of organise a work day. But I think I am just really flexible in the way that I work, and it depends on things that are landing on my desk at the time. So yeah, there's an element of social media. Sometimes if I'm designing and the next sort of range is coming out, that will be where I will focus my time on 100% at that point. So once you are in that kind of creative frame of mind, it's very difficult to break. So I sort of try and do that in a quite concentrated fashion over a period of a few days. But obviously, there's the day-to-day running of the business in terms of getting orders out and you know, general admin and finance and all the boring things, you know, that go along with it. So yeah, we're not a lot of stitching though, which is the unfortunate thing that you didn't necessarily foresee when I started this. But
you know, you are bringing that stitching to the wider masses, and other people are enjoying it on your behalf.
Absolutely, I hope so.
So, you know, what's coming next? What do you see in the future for Bobo Stitch?
I am hoping from next year I'll be full time on Bobo Stitch from September, which is a really, really exciting prospect for me, because there's loads of opportunities that I want to pursue for the business. I would like to see Bobo Stitch popping up in some of the cool little boutique sewing shops on the high street and that kind of thing, so people can physically see the kits, you know, as well as sort of being able to buy them online. And I've got some nice ideas in the back of my head for new ranges and things like that, so there's always a very, very long to-do list at Bobo Stitch. And
well, you're going to be able to enjoy the summer and then launch into it full steam ahead when baby Olive, who's no longer baby Olive, but Olive is at school from September. So fantastic. So if you had one wish, you know, on the bucket list, if you like, for Bobo Stitch, what would it be?
Really to have thought, you know, if I get to the end of all of this, and if absolutely nothing else, I know that some people out there have bought my kits and they have used those, and they have brought them pleasure in their precious spare time, then that ultimately is my wish for what I'm doing. You know, I want people to enjoy what they have stitched, that I've created, you know, for them to stitch, and I want them to kind of display them with pride and say, ta-da, this is what I made. And you know, that's, if I could think that at the end of, you know, of this run, then that's brilliant, and I'd be...
That's so lovely, and you know, I'm sure that wish is already true. So you know, I think people are really loving these designs. I know that our customers are really going to enjoy stitching them. So thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us today and tell us all about your world. It's been really interesting.
Thank you, Amy. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
And we'll keep in touch, and hopefully, you know, we can collaborate on things in the future. And good luck, and we'll see you very soon.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.